After a historic political comeback, Donald Trump took his first actions in office. As the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump signed a bunch of executive orders after taking the oath of office on Monday, looking to quickly implement his election agenda, including declaring a national emergency on the U.S.-Mexico border. He's ordered construction of the border wall to resume and terminated diversity programs in federal agencies. After a celebratory rally in Washington, downtown Washington, D.C., Trump signed a number of orders related to immigration at the White House, including a directive to end birthright citizenship, withdrawn from who he also withdrew from the WHO as well as the Paris Climate Treaty and a whole lot more. Proclaiming a new American golden age has begun. Within hours into his new term, President Trump obliterated large chunks of Joe Biden's legacy or the work that the previous government had done. In fact, he also revoked about 80 executive actions that the former president had signed. Before we explore the details of his executive orders, let's first listen in to some of the key takeaways from his oath-taking ceremony.
The golden age of America begins right now. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first. The vicious, violent, and unfair weaponization of the Justice Department and our government will end. Revoking nearly 80 destructive, radical executive actions of the previous administration, they'll all be null and void within about, 5 minutes? Is that them over there? 5 minutes? And next, to gain immediate control of the vast federal, out-of-control bureaucracy, I will implement an immediate regulation freeze, which will stop Biden bureaucrats from continuing to regulate. Most of those bureaucrats are being fired. They're gone.
All right. One of the most significant decisions that Donald Trump today took as part of his executive orders pertains to the birthright citizenship. And what it means, it impacts also H-1B visa holders as well, because children born to H-1B visa holders will now be considered illegal and hence will have to return. And will this mean the end of the H-1B dream, particularly for India? Why? Because India does have a very large portion of the H-1B visa holders. US had a population of about 5.4 million Indian Americans, and they account for about 1.47% of the country's population. 2/3 of them are immigrants. 34% are US born. That is the latest data that's come in. And a large part of them are, of course, H-1B visa holders as well. One can say that they are highly specialized. They provide the skill sets that average Americans do not have. So what does this mean for them and for their families? Let's get in David Johnston joining me to talk about this and to really decode the impact that this could have on H-1B visa holders. Good to have you, Professor Johnston, with me on the show. Talk to us about the uncertainty that lies ahead, particularly for H-1B visa holders.
Well, just a few weeks ago, Trump was in favor of continuing without much change the H-1B program because Elon Musk wanted it. But the MAGA right, his core supporters, don't like this program. So I think this is one where the tensions within the Republican Party and Trump followers are going to be very important. And by the way, Donald cannot end birthright citizenship. It's in the United States Constitution. So when he signed that executive order, it's meaningless as a matter of law. It simply tells you how deeply racist this administration will be.
Yes, that is one part of it. Donald Trump's also done a flip-flop as far as H-1B visa is concerned. Before I come to you about the legalities of this, I want to understand from you the impact this could have. On your screens, of course, we are playing out for our viewers how many H-1B visa holders are there, the fact that they contribute to a large extent to America's growth story and the larger economic story. I want to understand from you the impact this could have in the immediate term, because there are stories that are coming in that several H-1B visa holders, they're in fact being abruptly told by their employers that they will not get a continuation.
Well, the H-1B program gives employers total control over the people who work for them. If you are fired from your job, you have about 60 days to find another job that would qualify you, or you have to leave the country immediately. And one of the objections in the US to this is that while India has benefited a great deal, money sent home to India, remittances, it pushes down the wages of Americans who might develop the skills that Indian software coders and other technical people already have. So if Donald's going to pursue his America First policy, I would expect that there will be a decline in the number of East Indians who have an H-1B visa in the US because his program is America First, jobs for Americans. At the same time, he wants to cut higher education spending, not increase it. And that's one of the many contradictions in his policies.
The other thing I want to ask is that H-1B visa program really took out the divisions within the MAGA camp in complete detail, right? There was a camp which said that this is good. Of course, the larger MAGA brigade said that this goes against the very principle that is all about Make America Great Again. Do you think the entire flip-flop is pretty much caught in the center of the entire political tussle that Donald Trump is likely to see more of, even though he may want specialized, highly talented, skilled workforce to come in?
Well, it's important to understand that Donald doesn't really have policies. I've covered him as a journalist for 36 years, longer than anyone else. And Donald is very subject to the last person he spoke to. There's no underlying philosophy here. So how this will turn out is not at all clear, but he's certainly under pressure by the far right in America to make sure that people from India aren't here in as many numbers as they are. This is a Make America White government. And that more Americans have these jobs. And part of the problem is America is not producing enough computer science, genetic science, and other cutting edge areas as it needs. So as a result, people who studied hard in school in India in those fields have opportunities they wouldn't have. And Americans, because of the wages being pushed down, that's what an H-1B visa does, it suppresses wages, are less likely to undertake the expense, not to mention that in the US, there's this very strong anti-intellectual, anti-education movement led by the Trump-Publican Party.
All right, David K. Johnston, really appreciate you taking out the time to decode what I think is going to be a very important story that India Global is going to keep a very close watch on. Shifting focus now, soon after taking over as the 47th US president today, Donald Trump signed a record number of executive orders, including one entailing the nation's withdrawal from the WHO, which is the World Health Organization. The executive orders cover a wide range of topics, from requiring federal workers to return to office full-time to revoking birthright citizenship that we just spoke about, and even pulling the United States out of the Paris Climate Agreement. But what does it mean to really sign an executive order? What's that all about? Let's get in Vishal Vivek, my colleague, to explain that to you.
Executive orders are signed statements about how President wants the federal government to be managed. These orders can be instructions to federal agencies or requests for reports. They can also lay out major policies. For example, when former President Joe Biden signed an order to create a structure for establishing regulations on artificial intelligence. Executive orders are also used by presidents to pursue agendas they haven't been able to or can't get through Congress. New presidents can issue orders to cancel the orders of his predecessors, and they often do that. Trump has already canceled about 78 orders and actions signed by Joe Biden. According to the American Bar Association, the orders do not require congressional approval and can't be directly overturned by lawmakers. Despite appearing to wield a lot of power, there are some limitations to how far an executive order can go. Both Congress and the courts can potentially block these orders. Congress can also deny funding to federal agencies and cripple the enforcement of these orders.
Okay, there you heard what really are executive orders. The reason why it's important for you, viewers to know this is because that kind of constitutional authority we do not see here in India in our constitutional framework. But beyond the orders, what's the impact of it? What is really going to change with those bunch of executive orders that you saw Donald Trump sign away while he was talking to the media? Take a look at this report that my colleague Arjun has filed to tell you what really is the larger impact of those 80-odd signatures that Donald Trump did within hours of taking office.
As Donald Trump returns to the Oval Office for his second term, his executive actions are already reshaping the U.S. in dramatic ways. Here's a closer look at the sweeping changes under Trump 2.0. First up, Trump is vowing to end the weaponization of the federal government. His executive orders suspend enforcement of the TikTok ban for 75 days. He's also freezing the implementation of new federal regulations. Furthermore, the U.S. will now reclassify federal employees as political appointees to make it easier, in fact, to terminate them. Additionally, investigations into potential free speech violations under Biden are set to launch, with Trump's orders will also support states and securing lethal injection drugs for executions. Speaking of environment, Trump will once again withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement, signaling his commitment to rolling back climate regulations. His administration is easing restrictions on oil and natural gas production. Trump 2.0 is expanding fossil fuel drilling and eliminating the EV mandate. Additionally, Trump is halting leasing for large wind farms as well, prioritizing traditional energy sources. Now, in a significant move for global health policy, Trump is directing the U.S. to exit the World Health Organization. It's a bold step to reassert American sovereignty on health issues. He's also taking decisive action on gender policies with an executive order declaring the government will officially recognize only two biological sexes, male and female. He's also rolling back the DEI initiatives in federal agencies and in the military, marking a sharp break from the previous administration's inclusivity measures. Now, these orders signal a return to Trump's vision for America. It's a path that promises to undo key Biden-era policies and reshape the country's future. Only time will tell what will this new era mean for the U.S.